Ladies, listen up, because I'm about to tell you something that can save you a whole lot of trouble. See, men are simple. We really are. But that doesn't mean we need to know everything. Some things, you got to keep them to yourself. It's not about being dishonest. It's about being smart. Because trust me, knowing when to speak and when to hold back, that's power. So today, I'm giving you 5 things, a little survival guide on what a woman should always keep to herself when dealing with a man. Let's get into it. When it comes to relationships, one of the biggest mistakes a woman can make is thinking she needs to tell a man every single detail about her past, especially when it comes to her dating history. Now, I know honesty is important, and I'm not telling you to lie. But what I am saying is that full disclosure is not always necessary. Some things are better left unsaid. Not because you have something to hide, but because not everything needs to be known. Men are territorial by nature. No matter how evolved or mature a man claims to be, deep down, he does not want to picture the woman he loves in the arms of another man. He doesn't want to know how many dates you've been on, how many people you've entertained, or how many times you thought you were in love before him. Even if he asks, he's not really ready for the truth. And even if he thinks he can handle it, what he doesn't realize is that once he hears those details, they're going to live rent-free in his mind. A man could be deeply in love with you, but the moment you start giving him too much information about your past, things change. If you tell him about the ex who broke your heart, he'll start comparing himself, wondering if he measures up. If you tell him about the man who used to fly you out and buy you gifts, he'll start questioning whether he can provide at that level. If you tell him about a relationship where you were treated like a queen, he might start to feel pressure to match that. Or worse, resent you for having experienced it. On the flip side, if you share stories about the toxic ex, the guy who played you or the one who wasted your time, he might start wondering why you stayed so long, why you allowed it, or even if you're still emotionally tied to that situation. Some men will act like they're cool with knowing everything, but trust me, they're not. Even the most confident man can't help but replay certain things in his head. He'll start imagining things that never even happened. The thought of someone else having shared moments with you, kissed you, touched you, or even just made you laugh can be enough to plant a seed of insecurity in his mind. And that seed, if watered enough, will grow into doubt, jealousy, and unnecessary problems. Another thing to keep in mind is that men don't process information about a woman's past the same way women do. A woman can hear about a man's exes, his past relationships, and even his mistakes and still separate herself from him. She can acknowledge his growth and see him as the man he is today, but a man will take that information and turn it into a competition in his head. He might never say it out loud, but it'll be there. It'll change how he looks at you, how he values you, and sometimes even how he treats you. There's also a level of respect that men have for women who keep certain things private. A woman who doesn't feel the need to overshare commands a different kind of admiration. She's not withholding information out of deceit. She's simply choosing to protect what matters. Men appreciate a woman who carries herself with a sense of mystery. It keeps things interesting. It keeps him intrigued. It makes him focus on the present and not get caught up in things that don't concern him. Now, I'm not saying you should never talk about your past If there are important things he needs to know, things that directly affect your relationship, then of course be honest. But be selective with what you share. Every detail does not need to be disclosed. If he asks how many people you've been with, you don't have to give him an exact number. If he wants to know about your exes, keep it vague. A simple, I've been in a few relationships, but I've learned a lot and grown from them, is more than enough. What matters most is the relationship you're building now, not the one you had before. A man falls in love with the woman in front of him, not the woman she used to be. What you did before him, who you loved before him, and what you experienced before him should not define what you have with him now. So be mindful of what you share, because once you say it, you can't take it back. And once he knows, he can't unhear it. When it comes to relationships, there's a certain magic that a woman carries. And part of that magic is in the way she presents herself. A man sees a woman and admires her beauty, her confidence, the way she carries herself. But what he doesn't realize is the amount of time, effort, and precision that goes into creating that look. And truth be told, he doesn't need to know. The details of your beauty routine, the little tricks and enhancements that go into your appearance, are not something that needs to be fully revealed. Not because they're a secret, but because some things are better left as part of the illusion. Men are visual creatures, but they don't always understand what goes into the visual. They think women wake up looking flawless, and while deep down they know that's not true, they still want to believe in the effortless beauty they see. Telling a man about the hours spent blending foundation, contouring, applying lashes, or styling a wig takes away the effortless illusion he admires. He doesn't need to know how long it takes to lay edges perfectly, how much effort goes into maintaining clear skin, or how many products you have lined up just to get that glow. He doesn't need to hear about the toner, the serums, the exfoliation routine, or the silk pillowcase you sleep on to keep your hair from frizzing. It's not that he wouldn't appreciate it, but more often than not, he just won't get it. If you ever bring up your beauty routine in too much detail, you'll notice a man's eyes start to glaze over. Not because he doesn't care about you, but because it's a world that he doesn't understand. He sees the end result and appreciates it, but the behind-the-scenes work is something he doesn't need to be a part of. The more details you give, the more he starts to see beauty as a process instead of something natural. And whether they admit it or not, most men would rather believe it's just you. They don't want to hear about the shapewear, the push-up bras, or the clip-in extensions. They don't want to know that the flawless skin they love is the result of a 5-step skincare routine. They love the look, but they don't need the breakdown of how it got there. The moment you start over-explaining your beauty process, something shifts. Instead of admiring the way you glow, he starts thinking about how much effort goes into it. Instead of complimenting your hair, he starts wondering if it's really yours or if you bought it. Instead of appreciating your style, he starts questioning how long it takes you to get ready. And while none of this should matter, the truth is, men like what they like, and part of attraction is perception. The more he knows about the work that goes into your look, the more he starts dissecting it rather than enjoying it. There's also something powerful about maintaining a little bit of mystery. A woman who doesn't feel the need to explain every detail of her beauty routine carries herself with a different kind of confidence. She doesn't justify, she just is. She allows a man to appreciate her without needing validation for the work behind it. And men love that. They love a woman who knows how to present herself but doesn't overexpose the process. It keeps things exciting, keeps the admiration intact, and most importantly, it keeps the focus on who you are, not just how you enhance yourself. Another thing to consider is that men often associate beauty with natural ease. Even though they know women put in effort, they still love the idea that it's just you. If you spend too much time talking about all the enhancements, there's a risk that he starts questioning what's real and what's not. And while enhancements are completely normal, the reality is men sometimes struggle with the idea of too much transformation. They want to believe that what they see is what they get, even if deep down they know there's more to it. A woman's beauty routine is her personal domain, her own ritual, her own self-care. It's something that she does for herself, and while a man may benefit from it, he doesn't need to be fully involved in it. He doesn't need to sit and watch you apply layer after layer of makeup, nor does he need to know how much your favorite foundation costs. He doesn't need to understand the science behind lace front wigs or the reason why you can't just use regular soap on your face. All he needs to know is that you take care of yourself and that you always show up looking beautiful. When a man enters a relationship with a woman, he's not just getting to know her. He's also getting small glimpses into her world, including her friendships. But one thing a woman should always be mindful of is how much she shares about her friend's personal business. A man does not need to know every scandal, every betrayal, or every secret that's floating around in her circle. It might seem harmless at first, just venting or sharing a funny story, but the truth is, the more he knows about the chaos happening in your friend group, the more he starts making assumptions about them. Men and women process information differently. When a woman hears about drama, she understands it in context. She knows that just because her best friend cheated on her boyfriend doesn't mean she would do the same. She can separate herself from the situation, see the different layers, and understand the emotions behind it. But a man, he sees everything in black and white. If your closest friend is constantly involved in messy situations, he's going to assume that birds of a feather flock together. He's going to wonder why you're so close to someone who moves that way. If you tell him about a friend who's been sneaking around behind her man's back, don't be surprised when one day he casually brings up, "You sure you're not covering for her?" Even if you've never done anything unfaithful in your life, his mind will start making connections that don't exist just because of association. Another thing to consider is that men are naturally protective. If you constantly bring your friend's problems to him, especially if those problems involve men mistreating them, he's going to start viewing your circle as a liability. He might even start questioning why you surround yourself with people who always seem to be in bad situations. And if your friends are involved in reckless behavior, cheating, lying, or constantly entertaining drama, he's going to assume that at some point that energy might spill over into your life. Men also think long term. Even if he's not saying it outright, a man who's serious about you is evaluating whether your world aligns with his. He's thinking about the future, about what kind of environment he's stepping into. If every time you talk about your girls is some new crisis, he's going to hesitate before fully committing. He doesn't want to deal with a constant storm of issues that have nothing to do with him. And if he hears too many wild stories, he may start to distance himself, not because he doesn't care about you, but because he doesn't want to be pulled into unnecessary drama. It's also important to remember that men value discretion. They don't share everything with their friends the way women do, especially when it comes to private matters. So when they hear a woman spilling every single detail about what's going on in her friends' lives, it makes them wonder, if she talks about them like this, what is she saying about me? No man wants to feel like he's going to become a topic of discussion in your group chat the second he does something wrong. The more you overshare about others, the more he starts to question how much privacy he'll have in the relationship. There's also something to be said about respect. Even if your man never brings it up, he's forming opinions about the people you surround yourself with. If you tell him that your best friend got caught up in a messy love triangle, he's going to remember that. If you tell him that your coworker has been secretly texting a married man, he's filing that away in his mind. He might smile and nod when you tell him the story, but trust and believe he's taking mental notes. And those notes will eventually shape the way he sees your circle and by extension you. A relationship should be a safe space, and of course you should be able to talk to your man about things that matter. But there's a difference between sharing important parts of your life and turning your relationship into a gossip hub. If your friend is going through something serious and it's affecting you, it's fine to talk about how it makes you feel. But diving into every messy detail, that's a line that doesn't need to be crossed. Family is one of the most important aspects of a person's life, shaping who they are, how they think, and how they move through the world. But no matter how much you love your family, no matter how close you are to them, not every detail about them needs to be shared with a man. When you're in a relationship, it can be tempting to vent about family drama, to share stories about relatives who have made mistakes, or to open up about the deep-rooted issues that exist in your household. But the truth is, too much information can do more harm than good. Men observe everything, even if they don't always comment on it. When you tell a man about the dysfunction in your family, he's not just hearing it, he's analyzing it. If you constantly talk about how your mother is controlling, how your father was absent, or how your siblings are always in conflict, he's forming an image in his mind of what it would be like to be connected to that world. He may not say it outright, but he's thinking about whether or not he wants to step into a situation that seems chaotic. A man also starts to wonder how these family dynamics have shaped you. If you tell him that your parents had a toxic marriage, he might start questioning whether you've picked up unhealthy relationship patterns without realizing it. If you tell him that there's always drama at family gatherings, he's wondering if he'll be expected to deal with that same drama. If you mention that your family is always borrowing money from you, he's quietly thinking about whether he'll be pulled into those financial burdens. Another thing to consider is that men value peace. A man wants to build a future with a woman who brings him stability, not one who constantly introduces stress into his life. If he starts to associate you with negativity because every conversation about your family involves tension, problems, or stress, he may start distancing himself, not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't want to be consumed by problems that aren't his own. Men also take mental notes about the way a woman talks about her family. If you're always speaking negatively about them, even if your complaints are justified, he's going to wonder how you'll speak about him in the future. He's paying attention to the way you handle conflict, the way you navigate difficult relationships, and the level of respect you show even when people don't deserve it. If he sees that you're quick to air out your family's flaws, he may start questioning whether you'll do the same to him when things get rough. It's also important to remember that first impressions stick. If you spend months telling a man about your cousin who's always in trouble, your uncle who can't be trusted, or your aunt who stirs up drama, don't be surprised when he has a hard time accepting them later. Even if you've made peace with your family's flaws, he might not be able to unhear the things you've told him. You might see them as just complicated people with good hearts, but he might see them as walking red flags. This can create unnecessary tension, especially if your family is an important part of your life. A man also doesn't want to feel like he's being compared to the men in your family. If you tell him about a father who disappointed you, he may feel pressure to prove that he's different. If you tell him about brothers who are unreliable, he might start thinking that you expect him to be the same. Even if you don't mean to, the stories you share can plant insecurities in his mind, making him feel like he's being judged before he even gets a chance to show who he really is. While it's natural to want to be open with the person you love, some things are better left unsaid. A man doesn't need to know every argument, every mistake, or every deep-rooted issue within your family. He needs to see the best of them, the love, the traditions, and the values that shaped you. And if there are struggles, they should be framed in a way that doesn't make him feel like he's stepping into a situation that's too heavy to carry. One of the most important things a woman should keep to herself in a relationship is her backup plan. And when I say backup plan, I'm talking about that little safety net, that just in case option that some women keep tucked away in the back of their minds. It could be an ex she still entertains on some level, a male friend who's a little too available, or even just a mindset that if things don't work out, she already has a way out. No man needs to know about that, because the moment he feels like he's not your first and only choice, the entire foundation of the relationship shifts. Men want to feel needed, wanted, and irreplaceable. It's not just about love. It's about the security of knowing that the woman they're with is fully invested in them and them alone. The moment a man even suspects that you have a backup plan, his energy changes. He may not say anything right away, but internally he's processing the fact that you might not be all in. And once that doubt creeps in, it doesn't go away. It lingers in the background, affecting how he sees you, how he values the relationship, and how much effort he's willing to put in. A man who feels like he's an option instead of a priority will never give you his best. He may still be present, he may still care about you, but he won't fight for something that doesn't feel solid. If he thinks there's another man waiting in the shadows, he'll start to pull back. If he senses that you're mentally keeping one foot out the door, he won't give you his full commitment. No man wants to be in a situation where he's competing with the idea that he's replaceable. Even if you're the most loyal woman in the world, having a backup plan, even just mentally, creates an energy shift that a man can pick up on. If you always have that "I'll be fine regardless" attitude, he may start to feel like you don't truly need him. And while independence is attractive, there's a fine line between being strong on your own and making a man feel like his presence doesn't matter. Men want to feel like they bring something to the table that no one else can provide. They want to feel like the relationship is something unique. Not just another chapter in your life is that it can easily affects how you handle problems in the relationship. If deep down you know that you have another option, you may not put in the same effort to work through issues. You might not fight as hard to make things work because in the back of your mind you're thinking, if this doesn't work out, I'll be fine. And while that might be true, relationships thrive when both people are fully invested. If a man senses that you're not fighting for the relationship the way he is, he'll stop fighting too. There's also the issue of respect. A man who respects you wants to know that you respect him just as much. If he ever finds out that you've been entertaining another man's attention, even in a small way, it's going to damage his trust. Even if you see it as harmless, even if you think you're just being polite to an old flame, it's a completely different story in his mind. A man doesn't want to feel like he has to guard his position in your life. He wants to feel secure knowing that you're his just as much as he's yours. A backup plan can also create unnecessary tension in your relationship. If you're keeping in touch with an ex just in case, you might think it's innocent, but your man will see it differently. He'll start to wonder why that door is still open. He'll question if you still have lingering feelings. He'll wonder if he's being played. And once those doubts start forming, they don't just disappear. Even if you tell him he has nothing to worry about, the damage is already done. A man wants to know that when you're with him, you're all in. He doesn't want to feel like he has to constantly prove himself to keep you. He doesn't want to feel like he's in a competition he didn't sign up for. He wants to know that when you chose him, you truly chose him, not because he was the most convenient option, but because he was the only one you wanted. A woman should always keep certain aspects of her past relationships to herself. It might seem like honesty means laying everything out on the table, but when it comes to past relationships, too much information can do more harm than good. A man doesn't need to know every detail about your exes, how they treated you, what went wrong, what they did right, or how deeply you love them. The more he knows, the more comparisons he starts making, whether he realizes it or not. By nature. The moment you start talking about your past relationships, he's measuring himself against them. If you tell him your ex was the love of your life, he's wondering if he'll ever measure up. If you mention how well your ex treated you, he's questioning whether he'll ever be able to match that. And if you talk about how badly your ex hurt you, he might be thinking that you still carry those wounds. No man wants to feel like he's living in the shadow of another man, and when you bring up your past,